Welcome, Twin Cities Startup Week 2, creating multiple streams of income, side hustle. I am your host, Michael Thomas Sonneborg, honored to be here. Hope you've enjoyed the events of Startup Week starting today. Lots of events going on. Make sure you check them out on the website. We are broadcasting live today from Office Centers in downtown lovely Edina, well actually right outside of downtown. And we thank Office Centers for their available space for hosting these events. And make sure you check out, they provide all sorts of opportunities around the Twin Cities and locations for you to office out of home. So make sure you check them out. Thank you, Office Centers. I'm your host, Michael Thomas Sonneborg. I'm glad to be here today. This is really a near and dear topic to my heart. When I was in third grade, I was in a place in the classroom where I was put to be able to focus my energy, which was in the back, behind a screen, because I had an exuberance of energy. So I started my first side hustle when I was 8, and I would make appointments for people to meet me in my cube for more information about how to navigate through class. All right, so the entrepreneur in me started at an early age, and it was fun for me because every time I've done a new business and started a consulting business or a side hustle, I always did it because I wanted to do it. But the nice part is you can also make money doing it. So today, we have a wonderful lineup of people that are going to help us understand, other entrepreneurs, how to make that side hustle into an income stream, something that you love to do and make money at it. So why not? So we're going to have a great kickoff. We've got John's going to kick us off with a little background information and a short keynote. We've got some fantastic panelists that we're going to go through, ask them a few questions, and then have some of your questions of your own, and find out how you can take that startup, that side hustle, and make it into an income stream. So welcome. Nice to have you here. All right, with further ado, John Brosey.
No, that's cool.
Take two. Dale Brosey, welcome. Nice to have you here. He's going to pop up and tell us more about that. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you very much for the introduction. Hopefully audio is good. So, when it was first brought up to me saying, first of all, let me say thank you very much for hosting this event, Office Center, and Twin Cities Startup Week. One of my favorite events. It kind of marks every September for me. I used to love going to events all the time. Things have been a little bit different over the last couple of years, so kind of getting our groove back to these Startup Week events. But if you haven't taken advantage of Startup Week in the Twin Cities or in Minnesota, and you are entrepreneurial or have an entrepreneurial spirit, I really encourage you to get involved in the community, even things like Min Demo, what have you. We've got a great community here in the Twin Cities that can be an inspiration. Like this event gave me an opportunity to actually get out of the house. It was just a pleasure. And when Jim said, hey, do you mind speaking? I said, I get to see people, right? So I thought that was pretty cool. So I'm glad to be here. Early startups. Oh, let me give you an introduction. My name is Dale Brosey. I'm a partner of LTR Digital Group, which is a digital marketing agency based out of the Minnetonka area. We primarily do digital campaigns, advertising, and analytics. So it's kind of two sides of the coin. But when it was brought up to me, the idea, and I don't know if you see my slide, I called it Side Hustle or the Future of the Future Economy. I had to think about, when I was asked side hustle or multiple streams of income, I thought that was kind of an interesting subject or topic for Startup Week. But then I started looking at the economy that we currently have, and I said, you know what? It's probably a very timely topic, and I really wanted to start thinking about what could I talk about in this in the brief time that I have with you to kind of touch on why would we be talking on a subject like this. So if I can get to the next slide. So one of my favorite people on the planet is Jerome Powell, our Fed chair. And a couple weeks ago, he was speaking not at an FOMC event, but at another event where he was talking, it was a live stream type of thing. And the Federal Reserve, or the Fed chair, actually said, the economy that we used to know is probably not coming back. And that was a very sobering thought to me when I heard him say that. We don't know what the future is going to be at this point, but we know that. I heard it very often over the last year, people saying, yeah, it'll be fine. We'll go back to the way it was. And I can hang out here. I mean, maybe I got some money set aside and I can weather this storm and just wait for things to return to normal, I think it's going to be a while waiting. So we have to start thinking, okay, what can we do going forward? And the two terms, multiple streams of income and side hustle, they're not mutually exclusive terms as I understand them or as I apply them. You can have you can have multiple streams of income, but one doesn't have to be a side hustle. You can have passive streams of income to where you're not really hustling, right? Maybe it's through wise investing and things like that. You can build those multiple streams. Real estate, things like that. I wanted to define in my mind, how do we approach this topic and what can be information that can be useful to you. You also have several panelists here today that can speak on a number of subjects and topics and approaches to these things from a number of different angles. So take advantage of the panelists that we have here to ask questions and really even farm some things out in your mind. So why is the economy not returning to normal, in the words of Jerome Powell? Well, there's a reason for that. It's actually a very simple reason. I don't know if it's up or not. And then next slide. There you go. That's one of my favorite memes. That's Jay Powell throwing trillions of dollars into our economy, and then everybody thinking, well, things are going to be normal when we come out the other end. Of course, that's simply not the case, and if you're involved in the stock market or investing or anything like that, and you're following what's happening to our economy on the financial side, you know that there's a high probability that things can't go back to normal. You can't simply pull trillions of dollars back out of the economy and expect things to go back to normal. And also, we've seen the impact on employment and things like that with stimulus money coming out. Some people were benefactors of stimulus money, other people not so much. So that kind of made returning to the workforce a bit of a challenge, and we're just simply trying to figure out how to get the traction. But the topic of multiple streams of income, going back to, and that's what this slide is right here, does anybody remember Robert Allen, his books from the 80s? Robert G. Allen came out with a series of books. He was one of the first ones I read back in the 80s of multiple streams of income. And when the idea was given to me, I said, well, the idea of multiple streams of income has been around for a long time, and it's always been a part of people's lives. But there was another person. This was probably in the early 2000s. Anybody remember Robert Kiyosaki? The whole Rich Dad, Poor Dad thing? Does anybody remember his board game? There was a board game that went along with the Rich Dad, Poor Dad series. It was called Cash Flow. And for a while here in the Twin Cities, there were a couple groups, and I would go to these groups. We would get together in people's homes, and we'd play this board game called Cash Flow. It was a simple game where it was kind of a Monopoly kind of game where you pull a card and you find out, oh, somebody's selling a vending machine franchise. Do you have the money? Would you like to buy it? Would you not like to buy it? What do you want to do? So it kind of would teach people, entrepreneurial type skills, investing type skills, and at the end, of course, there would be winners and there'd be losers. And the thing that I always found interesting about that game was it was always the person that had built multiple streams of income and had been willing to take risks during the game. That was the winner at the end. The ones that didn't win were the ones that just sat on their money and just didn't do anything with it. So valuable lesson to me, and maybe that's why I'm heavily involved in the stock market today myself. Those are a couple of my side hustles, or one of my side hustles is I trade options a lot, equity options, and I trade futures a lot. I was doing a lot of that this morning because the market was having a fun day, a day I've been waiting on for a long time. So we got our friend Jerome Powell throwing trillions of dollars into the economy and telling us that the economy that we knew is not necessarily coming back. So the topic of multiple streams of income is very important. But when you think of, I'm going to create multiple streams of income, or I'm going to do this, right? I'm inspired, I'm going to do this. What I knew maybe not necessarily coming back, so what do I do next? And you got to ask yourself, well, what kind of resources do you have to work with when you're looking at this? You're going to have probably one or you might have multiple resources, but it kind of comes down to one or two things. You're either going to have, next slide, you're either going to have time on your hands to where you can go out and I go to Whole Foods. It took me a while. I'd go to Whole Foods and do my shopping, and I would see all these people with their phones out picking up things. I said, my God, these people are organized. Compared to the way I shop, they're so organized. And it took me after a few months realizing they're all Instacart, and there are all these people filling orders for other people, because I'd be seeing them, wow, that's really organized shopping. So if you have time on your hands, you can look at something like that to maybe build as a side hustle and maybe a second time of income. Or the other resources that you might have available to you would be capital or money, right? Maybe you have some money that you set aside, and it's, you're seeing your money market fund. My money market fund keeps going down and down in returns, or the returns are diminishing. So where else can I put that? So I buy things like from Toyota Finance. I buy car financing notes and things like that to give me a 3% or 3.5% versus whatever money markets are giving now, 0.5% or 1%. So how can I better use my money? So, or the other thing you can do, like a lot of people did in the last year, is jump into the stock market, thanks to things like Robinhood and Webull and things like that. I wish them the best going forward with that money. So go ahead and go to the next slide. So whatever you decided to do, whatever it's going to require is that you're willing to expand your vision, how you see things, how you're willing to see the world around you. So expand your vision to expand your opportunities. I'll trademark that because I actually came up with that. So expand your vision to expand your opportunities. And my favorite quote is the one on the bottom. If you don't have a plan, you become someone else's plan or part of someone else's plan. And to me, that's a very compelling thing. You always got to have a plan, or you end up being someone else's plan. So I think we'll go to the next slide. So we know that opportunities exist. Here's a brother and sister that make about $30,000 a month mining cryptocurrency. If a 14-year-old and a 9-year-old can do it, I know adults can probably spend some time to learn about some of these things, maybe. And anything I say is not necessarily an endorsement saying, yep, you need to go out and buy yourself a mining rig and start mining cryptocurrency. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying be open to new things. If a 14-year-old and a 9-year-old brother and sister can figure out how to make $30,000 a month, I think that sounds kind of interesting. Next slide, please. They're not an isolated situation. Anybody heard of NFTs or non-fungible tokens? Well, here's a 12-year-old kid out of the UK that made whatever this, all these are articles, $400,000 in 2 months selling NFTs. Okay, he's making a lot more than me, I know that. And if a 12-year-old can figure out how to do that by not being restricted in his thinking, that kind of tells me, kind of be open to my thinking. So there's plenty of opportunities. Opportunities exist out there. You just need to be open to new ideas. Next slide, please. There is a resource. I'm not the original speaker. There was another speaker that was, and here's another one. Here's two boys, two brothers, 30,000 doing Ethereum as well. So give you 3 examples right there of kids making a lot more money than a lot of other people I know every month. There is a resource out there. It's called millennialmoneyman.com. This is one that Jim, or the gentleman that introduced me to speak, said, hey, mention this one. Here's a resource, millennialmoneyman.com. You can go there, learn about different streams of income or different things, in addition to the panel that we have here. So I'll conclude. That's my time, right? I'll conclude with the next slide. Oh, the next slide was just up. As I had established, the Fed says the economy that we knew is probably not coming back. What do we do next? We have a panel here, open to taking questions, and thank everybody for attending today.
Rosie, thank you. Now, we put together a panel of esteemed colleagues and entrepreneurs today that cover everything from essential oils to cryptocurrency to Amazon. So get ready to learn more about how to turn those into income streams. What I'm going to do is just have our panelists introduce themselves and just give you a quick little 2-minute intro about who they are and what they do. Let's go ahead and get started. You've heard from Dale.
Well, I talk pretty loud, so it should work okay, but my name is John Arms. My company is called Voyager University, and what I do and what we do is we teach people to go independent. We look at it through kind of a different lens than a lot of the things that you kind of hear from the Fed today, and that is, Where do you put your dollars in the market? We generally say bet on yourself and train yourself for a new way to sort of create value in the market based on the skills that you've aggregated over as long as it takes to get a lot of gray hair and a lot of wisdom and scars. So that's what Voyager U does, and that's the business I've started. And I'll pass it on because I want to keep it underneath 2 minutes, but there's one thought I would like to interject to this whole idea of a side hustle. You might hear about it a little bit more, and it's called a portfolio career. For those of you who trade in the market, it's really helpful to think about not just a side hustle as a little bit of extra money. I think we're moving to a space in the economy when you're going to sort of carve out 4 or 5 portfolio buckets of your own value and monetize that. And the term that people are using now more and more is the portfolio career. So add that to your notes. It'll become really helpful. You'll hear a lot more about it. So that's me. Was that 2 minutes?
Hi, I'm Nancy Johnson. I am a wellness advocate with doTERRA. It's a wellness company that specializes in essential oils, and we really help people remove louder. Is this on? There we go. I think it wasn't on. Sorry. So we're a wellness company that specializes in essential oils, and we really help people remove toxins from their home and from their bodies. And doTERRA was actually my side hustle when I was in corporate America until it grew. And so now my side hustle is I do stock trading and cryptocurrency trading on the side, and it's very fun, and I'll elaborate more on that after.
My name is Lisa Van On, and I run LVA Wellness. I started in the fitness and nutrition industry, and then I moved into self-protection for young women. So I have a program called the I'm Initiative, and I run workshops for girls 12 to 18 years old, teaching them how to take care of themselves, protect themselves, and be safe in the world. And my side hustle is Airbnb.
Hello, I am Ryan Grant. My business is Online Selling Experiment. So we sell physical products on Amazon, eBay, some of our own websites, and then we teach others how to do this as well. And this ultimately began as a side hustle for me. So I'd sold items online in college, and then took a job as an accountant post-college, and then realized I didn't want to be an accountant, and then set a goal of if I could get to making $1,000 a month, working 10 hours a week, selling online, that I'd try going full-time at that. And 8 years ago today was actually my last day at the accounting job, and here we are.
Hi everybody, I'm Wes Roper, and I'm with FranNet. My role in the panel is I help people explore if franchising makes any sense. There's a lot of franchises out there that people start while they're still in corporate America, and they get the thing going and they build it so that it's something they can launch to. All that sounds real great. I like to think my role is I help you methodically look at this. Franchising comes with a lot of preconceived notions. We try and figure out how many of those are legit positives and legit negatives, and if it makes any sense for you. I got here leaving corporate America about 5 years ago. The whole idea of a side income, I took 5 years building my business, or 4, and over the last year I've branched out and I do some technology consulting and some lead generation. And if I were leaving you with anything, what I like about the side hustle is it helps smooth out the overall bank account at the end of the month when one might be higher than the other, and it helps with the ebbs and flows of running a small business.
Thank you. Hold on to the mic, Wes, because you're going to be next first. Got a couple questions I'm going to ask now our panelists, some questions about inspiration, some motivation, and some perspiration. So here we go. So let's start with the inspiration. So we'll just start with you, Wes, and you touched on this. What got you started with side hustle? What was your inspiration?
It was my wife and my kids, actually. I had a job, and I averaged over 18 years, 68 hours a week. And I traveled a lot. It was quite a stressful job. My inspiration was to try and have a little more control over my time without compromising the long-term earnings. Dale touched on it. Time's a pretty big deal, right? You don't just turn on a business that replaces an income. You want to start that thing before you really need it. My wife, because she sold Great Clips franchises for a long time, and it never dawned on me to consider one, even though I got my hair cut there forever. I didn't know who a good owner or a bad one was. What my perception of the process was it was pretty emotional and pretty romantic. And it sure felt like there was a logical, methodical process that you could put in place to help people figure out if it makes sense. Emotions matter, romanticism matters, but at the end of the day, money matters too. And don't get too romantic about things. Make sure the financials work out and make sure your fit works out.
Wonderful. Great. Let's move on to Ryan. Well, how did you get started? What was your inspiration to start a side hustle?
My first inspiration was just, I was going to the college bookstore at the end of my first semester, and the offer for my textbooks was extremely low compared to what I had paid at the beginning of the semester. So I turned down the offer, started looking into other options, and then that led me to Amazon. That's where I sold those books, and that's kind of opened up the world of possibilities that we're in today. And then I did take a job post-college, and then the real motivation there was to get out of that job and just have more freedom.
Wonderful. Great. Lisa, same question.
Yeah, for me, the Airbnb started as I have a beautiful condo that is right off the light rail, a couple stops from the airport, and I don't know, I had a conversation with some flight attendants, and they were like, we need a crash pad. And I was like, well, why don't you take one of my rooms, and I just take a little bit of rent from you, and when you're in town, you can crash at my pad. And then it just worked so well, and I started traveling a lot for my work to speak and do events, and I just put my whole place on Airbnb. And then it was rented out basically whenever I was gone, and I'd have to block it if I wanted to stay in my own space, to be honest. And now that just led to, I've now leased out a bunch of other spaces and turned them into Airbnbs, and it's super fun. I love doing it. So.
Well, I was thinking about that question because I figured out I started side hustles when I was a teenager. I actually learned how to play cards. My uncle taught me how to play cards really well, and I really wanted to move out and live on my own, and so I had a job in high school, but I started playing cards on the side and would make about $250 a week, which paid for a lot of things. It was a lot of fun. And then in corporate America, I was always into natural health and helping people get healthy naturally. So I was helping people on the side. It never dawned on me to do it totally full time, because I was with a lot of direct sales companies through that process. And I left that 15-year career and tried a couple other careers, and I was a well-being director at assisted living, and they actually hired me because of my aromatherapy knowledge. But then my doTERRA business grew more than I was making with my full-time job, so it was an easy transition to do that. And then it's allowed me, with that extra income, to start stock trading. And my inspiration there to do crypto and stock trading was I just wasn't happy with my brokerage firm and the fees that they were taking, and I followed someone that kind of taught me how to do it, and now I do it myself and have done quite well, and it's a lot of fun. I mean, I really enjoy it, so that's an inspiration, just to enjoy what you do.
Absolutely, you gotta love it. So, inspiration is the question, right? Inspiration, what inspired me? What inspired me, I started Voyager 3 years ago, and I think what inspired me most was I had a company that I had founded, so I was an entrepreneur a couple times before this, and I had ran it for 14 years, and after looking, it was an advertising agency, and after looking at the model, I thought, geez, the world is changing. The way we were getting resources and talent, it just wasn't inside our building anymore. It was just all out there in the world, and that world kept getting bigger, and I thought, geez, there's something to this independent economy. There's a lot of stuff out there, and so that inspired me to sell my business, and then figure out, okay, how do you go independent? How do you do it for yourself? And what I realized is there wasn't a roadmap or a book or much of a guide on how to do that. And so I did probably the slowest, hardest, most difficult way, but just promised myself that I would help others by keeping the gate open behind me and kind of codifying how it is to go independent. So my inspiration then was to create an independent business model. Now it's the people who want to do this and want that freedom and self-reliance. So two different inspirations.
So inspiration, I was thinking about that word, and okay, is it inspiration? I realized, okay, first side hustle, 1978. I was in the 5th grade, became a paper boy. Inspiration? It's because I could. I don't think I had an inspiration other than maybe a concept of self-determination at an early age, saying, wait a minute, I can go get a paper route and deliver papers after school. And I did because I could. I don't even think my dad knew I had a paper route for a couple weeks until after I had it, So it was a much different world then. Then in, junior high, you used to be able to go to the drugstore and get essential oils. You remember little vials of concentrated like cinnamon oil for flavoring, but it was really hot. I would make cinnamon toothpicks, buy a box of toothpicks for next to nothing, dump it in there, let it cook for a couple days, take it to school and sell, 5 cinnamon toothpicks for $0.25. I'd always have baggies full of them, and I would smell like cinnamon all day. The teachers would always take them away from me. I would go home, make more at night, because I was being disruptive. And even when I was in the Army and the barracks, I would prepare taxes for guys in the barracks. It's just something, because I could, I just did. It wasn't an inspiration. It was just, wait a minute, I can have a level of self-determination. And as far as trading the market today, I got involved in cryptocurrency investing and trading back in 2014. Today, why options and why the futures market? Because I love to learn. And I think a lot of this is about being willing to learn or become uncomfortable to learn something new. And I love to learn and occupy my mind, and the financial markets are beautifully complex things. International markets and the markets that we live in, the bond market, beautifully complex and interesting to learn about for me.
Well, and what's interesting about the thread, as I'm listening to each one of you, there's a thread that comes from within. And you got to remember the word inspiration means inspired. So inspired coming from within you. And it's like your personality is popping out, whether it's selling toothpicks. I forgot about cinnamon toothpicks. They're so delicious. I'm going to talk to you afterwards. And some stock. But this idea of it popping out of you as something that interests you, and that curiosity, that's a big clue. You're curious about something, see where that leads you, and look where it's led all of them, that curiosity. And then the word disruption popped up. And disruptive is, a lot of us were disruptive as kids because we had all these great ideas. Well, now as an adult, you're encouraged to be disruptive. So get those ideas out and start bringing those into reality. And that inspiration is that coming from within, those great ideas you have, or that niche idea. Ooh, wouldn't this be fun? Wouldn't that taste good? Right? If you like it, someone else might like it, and they might pay for it. So we're going to move now to more of a middle ground, which is more about when you implement something, what are some of the perspiration areas, some of the challenges? Talk about a challenge you've had with having a side hustle or one of your side hustles that you had to overcome, and what did that teach you? So what was a challenge? Any perspiration there?
Well, there's plenty of days with perspiration when the market goes against me in a big way, and I take losses, but it's especially people in the market. If you do that, you just got to be able to willing to let things go and not eat at you, because that's when it starts building upon itself, and it gets worse and worse and worse, and the self-doubt. For me, there's just days where you just don't feel like doing it, and then you say, no, I'm committed to this, and I'm going to push forward, and I'm going to persevere. So, I don't know. That's about it. I don't know.
That's your perspiration.
I guess.
Yeah, that's good perspiration. I'm perspiring a little bit right now. I think the perspiration for me, I don't know if perspiration is the exact right word, but when I started my then side hustle, I jumped, and I knew I was going to jump. I had a date when I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to start this. And of course, that'll cause a lot of perspiration. That'll make you nervous. It'll make your family nervous because your income stream is going to change. And so the way I offset that was, all right, I better have a plan. I know I'm going to do something different. I'm not going to go full time. I want to kind of create my own entity. And this isn't about early on. It's not about you know, the logistics of it, or going to the state and setting up. You have to do all that stuff, but the first thing is you have to, I think, perspire in thinking about the value that you have. You have to spend a lot of time and energy on, like, what do I do? What am I good at? Who would buy that? So it's a lot of mental perspiration, I think, and really thinking that through before you physically have to do all the hard stuff. So, but yeah, for me it was, the way I overcame the perspiration was, I better make a plan. And that's when I became a big, for the second time in my life, a big fan of the book Traction. If you haven't read it, it's very helpful to offset some of those worrisome moments. So,
Can I add something? Sorry, not to you, Mike. Okay, so I just thought about something. It's self-doubt and listening to other people that don't believe in your vision. For me, that's the big thing. So 2015, cryptocurrency, I think Bitcoin went from 1,000 down to $250. Everybody's writing articles, Bitcoin's dead. And they're saying, and I was going to buy 5 more. $250, I was going to buy a whole bunch more. And everybody says, that's crazy. You don't know, it's don't, and I listen to them.
there you go.
Well, I totally agree with the self-doubt thing. It's kind of funny thinking about the two things. I tried option trading, and for me, it was taking way too much of my time because I really wanted to spend my time on what I really loved, doTERRA. So I had to decide, but I was also playing with my daughter's money, and I'll call it playing because it feels like the stock market is playing sometimes, because she had inherited some money when her dad passed away several years ago. And so I had a lot of perspiration trying to make sure I was going to be making money for her with these stock trades, and I did. So it was a beautiful thing, as I like to say. But with, and when I left my corporate job to go full-time with doTERRA, that definitely, you have to have a lot of faith and trust in yourself and just make a decision that you're going to do it. Because it's not, some people do really well at direct sales and some people don't, and I could talk all day about why I think that is so. But I was just determined. I wanted my time freedom. I wanted to earn a particular income. I wanted to match the income I was making back in corporate America, and I did. And so, that allows me to travel and do all the things I love to do. So you got to have some kind of goal or something too that you're reaching for, and just do it regardless. Just keep moving forward.
I'd echo what everyone else has said. I think too, like everyone who's in this room, people that have the interest or the curiosity for being an entrepreneur also inherently are willing to take risks, but that is the biggest challenge. Like for me with Airbnb, it was easy initially when it's my condo and it's my mortgage that's getting paid for me. That's great. But then when I take the leap to lease out a second space and go on Facebook Marketplace and try to curate this gorgeous little Airbnb that someone wants to stay in, and I'm now paying a landlord, I have to pay that rent, and I have the startup costs and all of that. There's this risk that you're like, oh my gosh, if this doesn't work out. And then you put it on the market and you're like, what if nobody rents it? I'm screwed. Like, they're literally gonna be screwed if nobody rents it. And then everything's worked out so well for me that as soon as I list something, it just books out fully, and it's worked. But like, you're hemorrhaging money, and you're like, I'm bankrolling myself. I'm not taking out a loan or anything, and the nerves that come with that. Like, is this going to work out? And then ultimately you're like, well, if I go broke, man, I go broke, And then like, I start up something new. I don't know. Like you got to have a little bit of that spirit. Like, this might work out, this might not work out, but I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to just give it my best.
For me, what comes to mind is perseverance in the early stages, because in an inventory-based business, you're buying the inventory, and then you have to wait and see if it sells. And you get better and better at that over time, but to grow the business, you have to constantly go to the next level, buy more, and see it through. So a lot of people that I see start, they don't make it to those next steps because they put that first effort in, but don't make it to the next step. And kind of the same with starting Online Selling Experiment. Like, for this first few months, like, nobody's reading the site. But as you get visitors to the site, then they go back and read your other stuff, and then staying the course on a project you believe in, it does lead somewhere a good chunk of the time. But if you give up too early, then it doesn't.
So my perspiration is I'm not a huge risk taker. I'm a pretty careful, calculated. Some of these guys are laughing. You don't have to be a massive risk taker to start a business, but you do have to plan for time to figure out how to run it well. People don't start a business and immediately run it well. So you got to put a plan in place and make sure your loved ones or the people that care about you are okay with it. You don't want to listen just to the constant doubters, but you should take inputs. You should do your research. I do think about it, though, like you start this business, you might have had a good place to start from, but you're still figuring it out in the early days, and that causes some uncertainty. You might mess up a little bit. Just plan. You'll get through.
Another theme that's emerged, and thank you for your responses, is that idea of providing value. And the idea of value comes from how much value do you place on your own contributions, your own gifts, your own interests, and how does that translate to value for others? So this idea of value is not only sharing, but being able to know the value of what you bring and know the value of what you are investing yourself and your time and energy in. So value is something as entrepreneurs we're always looking for, because we're doing this to not just be successful, to make others successful too. It's a matter of working with those gifts and sharing those and be able to create value for our customers, which then can be one of the greatest ROIs can be that my customer is really happy, or they're successful, or I've given something they need. I've met a need and I provided value. That to me comes back. So with that in mind, we're going to talk about a celebration. So remind us of something that you think was you're most proud of with your side hustle that you would celebrate. And so let's talk about celebration.
Friday night I got a photo texted to me from a couple of clients that were at a women business owners event, and they were taking their picture together. They're two people that were done with corporate America, came from very different places. It was fun seeing their smiles. I think it's really cool trying to help those people build their businesses after I help them figure out if it makes sense to get into one or not. So.
Any other? Or is that the most proud of it?
That was the biggest one most recently. I like to think I'm pragmatic and logical. I don't think you should just say, I'm fed up with my corporate gig, I'd just be gone. You can plan to jump, like John said, but just blindly jump in without thinking about it before you go. I take a lot of pride in helping educate people. Franchise side, right? Is this a fit or not? Okay, is it the time right or not? Is the dollars right or not? If the answer is no, it's okay. Let's get you into a job group and get you something new. But if it is a fit, it tends to be a pretty good one.
Thank you.
I think what comes to mind for me was in the early days. So I quit my job in September of 2013, and then the first month in October, I think I made about $2,000 in profit, and then November was like 4 or 5, and then December was 9. Which was more than I was making at the accounting job, and that gave me a lot of confidence that this might actually work, the plan to quit the job. So I think for me, like the early days, that was more exciting than continuing to scale from there, because you were kind of going from something you didn't know if necessarily would work to something that appears it would, and I think that was probably one of the more exciting times. Not that it's continued to go well, but that's what sticks out.
Probably for me, it was, I just take really great pride in the 5-star experience. I definitely, talking about value, it's been very important to me to create a high value experience for my guests. It's also I've become known as the Airbnb girl. And that has turned into another little side hustle, which is initially what would happen is people would be like, oh, you started Airbnb with your own space. Can I pick your brain? And of course, I would just write out, this is all the things you want to do to be an excellent host. And then I realized after I did a few of them that I needed to be charging for that. And so now I do Airbnb audits for people. And I think for me, one of the greatest celebrations is just people find me on Airbnb, hosts will connect with me and say, hey, I'd like to sit down with you and learn how to do this a little bit better. And just knowing that knowing that I'm known as someone that has that high level of experience, that you're really going to come in and have a wonderful experience. Just to know that, for me, it's just a celebration knowing that what I'm doing in my life, I'm doing very well.
I love it, and I love that word celebration, because I love celebrating all the time the people that I help get healthy naturally. One woman who is now my best friend came to me with a traumatic brain injury and all kinds of health issues, and everybody gave up on her, and so many people are giving up on these days, and now she's healthy, and she just can't even believe how it's changed her life. And people tell me that all the time, you changed my life, which is just really gratifying to hear. But I'd have to say, in the crypto market, taking that leap and trusting, not just my income, I wasn't that concerned with it, but my daughter's income, and doubling it within the stock market was huge, because that gives her financial security. And she was nervous about it, and I was like trying to have her trust me, and she trusts her mom, luckily, so she just lets me do it, and I'm trying to teach her how to do it now as well, which is going to be another big win.
Lots to celebrate. So my celebration, I think, is like everybody's saying. Your celebrations are outside of you. It's usually somebody else is having a good impact on people. But when we hit 200 members at Voyager, that was a big day, and it felt really good. And not because we had a chalkboard that said there's 200 people now. It was there's 200 people that when people come to Voyager, they're stuck. They've either been laid off or they just hit this ceiling. They can't go any farther in their career. And when 200 people come in, that means 200 people are back. They're back to providing value to the marketplace. They're back working. They're back, but now it's on their own thing. They're either magnifying a side hustle or starting their own consultancy. And that celebration really is, and all those 200 people where the light is back in their eyes. That is probably my best celebration right there.
Okay, so value, and I feel terrible what I'm going to say, because everybody brings value to other people. I don't think I bring value to other people, but when you can bring value to other people, and that value becomes indispensable, you pretty much have, right? I'm not going to call it a cash cow, but you got a pretty good bet on your hands at that point, right? And if you just continue to follow through on that. But when I think of value, also, sometimes some of the things, like whether it's cryptocurrency or markets or what have you, it's building a value for yourself, and that's through building a skill. Teach yourself skills to make yourself more valuable to you, your family, your economy, whatever it is. Maybe it's real estate investing or whatever it might be. But build a skill in yourself. The only way I think really the only way you can bring value to other people is if you value yourself and you're willing to put that forward, right? Celebration. Okay, so celebration, and this is going to sound terrible too, but I'm a technical trader. I'm not a fundamental investor. I'm a technical trader. I spend hours and hours looking at charts and doing my technical analysis on my trades. And in September of 2019, when I saw what was happening with the Fed and the repo market, I really started questioning what's going on here. Something doesn't smell right, and my moving averages started getting way too far away from each other. So I started becoming bearish in November and December of 2019. People say, oh, it's going to go on forever. I say, I don't know. This just doesn't smell right to me. So my trades were bearish, and I would take heat from my trades. I would lose money because the market did continue to go up until I was on vacation in Hawaii in March of 2019. And I had, on my positions, I would get up in the morning, put on a closing position, and I would just laugh because the market was just tanking, falling out of bed, and I was closing trades for 5,000, 6,000. My best ones were 8,000% returns. And I just laughed. And it's not, maybe it was an evil laugh, but it wasn't intended to be evil, because I was saying, I trusted the skills that I had built for myself, and I followed through on that. I put a bet on that, and it paid off very handsomely in March of 2019 for me. I gave it a lot back over the course of the next year because I doubted the rally, but that's the market.
Wonderful, thank you. We're going to take some audience questions now, so please think of some questions for our panelists individually, or you can ask collectively and we can see who wants to answer. Question?
You want this?
Sure. Whoops.
So my question is, of course, as everyone's going through corporate America, they want to start their side hustle. Do you guys have like a math equation or like a certain amount that you're putting to the side that goes for your side hustle? And then do you ever make a decision where maybe your corporate job's not enough and maybe I should get another side hustle to pay for the other side hustle until that main one works out?
So
That's kind of the two-part question. So how much you put in there, and then like, do you ever say, all right, maybe it's not enough where I get the other, I guess, side hustle?
This is an easy one from a franchise guy's standpoint, right?
Okay.
When you look at a franchise, there's a franchise fee, and then there's a document called a franchise disclosure document that'll spell out what it takes to get going. My role is to help find a fit and then help you research. And part of that's to build a financial plan and a timing plan that help you figure out what the amount is, what the timeline is, and what you want the earnings potential to be and at what time. They can vary widely, right? They can go, franchises range from $75,000 total investment to millions. I mean, they're kind of all over the map. There's financing available, stuff like that. So I always tell people this. If you think you want to explore a business, independent of any of these, can you sustain your life off of some savings for, say, a year while you get that thing going? Maybe you can do it quicker, but it's pretty nice to plan that number conservatively. So you figure out what that is. You figure out what the investment is, whether it be money, time, or a combination of. And then you figure out if the timing works. Timing's a pretty big deal in all this.
Yeah, it's a really good point, too, about timing. Also, we'll take questions from audience members out on Zoom, so you can send your questions in on Zoom. We'll be happy to answer them. Okay? Yeah.
I can answer, well, I'll answer, try to answer the second part of your question. I think it's very personal on what you decide to do, because, you know, there's Gene or jack of all trades, master at none. So if you're trying to do too many things, sometimes you lose your focus. So for me, doing one thing at a time, because I've tried to do more than one side hustle at a time, and it just, and especially in the network marketing, it's, you just don't do it because people don't trust you at some point. They're like, well, what do you do? And you want them to know what it is you do, you know, or what your thing is besides your main thing. But as far as money, it really depends on what your side hustle is, what you need to put aside. I didn't have to put a lot aside to do that for my doTERRA business. For the stock trading, yes, you do have to have some money for sure to start trading to make it, you know, the more you have, the more you can make because you make bigger trades, but you can start really small too. So sometimes it's okay if you just are really passionate about something to start small as well.
Yeah, I'd say another repository you're going to draw from on that is if there's like money, which nobody ever has enough, right? There's never enough. So save what you can, which is great. You'll go through it as you start a thing. Maybe you won't. You'll probably draw more from time. And to create any side hustle or create any sort of business, you're going to have to learn new stuff. You're going to have to meet new people. You're going to have to just get outside of places you normally go, which is awesome. We love doing that. But that's going to be more time than it is going to be dollars. Those things, new stuff that you're learning, new people in your community and network, and thinking differently is going to serve probably more than any dollars you have, because you would have thought through the growth of your side hustle or your next business more so than funded something that may or may not have the seeds of purchase, whereas put it in your brain time and you'll get higher yields. So that's what I see, is the think time is really what you have to bank and set aside. Which is awesome, isn't it? Because we're here to think, not just do.
Wonderful.
It's a great question.
Yeah.
Would you like this?
Yes.
Do we get to hear a sinister laugh?
No, you can laugh. I think, I mean, it's a very individual and a very personal thing, like we've mentioned, because when I think of, again, those are the terms, side hustle. When I think of side hustle, it means I'm going out, I'm going to do something because I need to create an immediate income, right? I want that immediate, or so are you doing a side hustle because you want another additional source of income? Or is it going to be like I'm playing the long game and I'm going to build additional income streams, which might be more of an investment? I said I don't need that today, or I might not even need that next year, but I want to build that asset as something that's going to be there for me in the future. So I think it's kind of a personal thing, is what do I need right now, or what am I willing to? Yeah, exactly.
Change.
Yep, yep.
Yeah, one thing that I think comes with that, if I might, I know you didn't ask another question, but we've talked a little bit about risk, and the thing you showed with the Fed chair, like, nothing's going to be the same.
Right.
It's all going to be different. If anything has changed more than last year, I think risk has changed more than anything. Like, it used to be so solid. You get a job with a corporate 500, whatever, man, you're in there for 40 years. My dad was. He worked for Piper for 42 years. Now there's millions of people that are out in the job work. Like, that doesn't happen anymore. That security is gone. So it's interesting that we talk about a portfolio career and a side hustle, which is absolutely a de-risk of, you know, what you bring to the market, as opposed to the world we're living in now, which is, see you later, you know, thanks for 25 years, you're gone. You get a little bit of money and you're on your own. Risk is completely changed. And to where I think most of us up here would say, you're better off having a couple of things rather than one, because that one is going to really, really sting. I just had to talk about risk. I had to. I'm done.
Well, and what's interesting about the thread, too, is if you start one, get focused on that, especially with network marketing, and you build your network, you build your rapport, you build your clientele, then you can start another. So, I mean, you have to look at balancing your plate. But for some people, they can go gung-ho, get started, start multiple streams, and some people you add them over time. So again, really depends on how much energy you have, how much time you have, all those factors, time, money, those things all take into consideration, but don't stop dreaming, right? Don't stop dreaming out loud about what you'd like to do, what you'd like to provide, what you'd like to create out there. We have a question from one of our internal audience members here. Question.
So here's the deal. Everybody's out there looking. There's more jobs than our people right now, right? And a full-time job is pretty damn secure. So why would I want to go on my own? Why would you want to do that? I mean, most people haven't done that. Why would you do it now?
That's a great question. Since I have the microphone, I'll answer it, and then I'll pass it around. One is I challenge it very premise that a full-time job is secure. I think the data on corporate America is pretty much out that if you do get a full-time job, you've got about 18 months before it's gone. And so that idea of that security, just, it's not there. It was there for the last 75 years, it's gone now. So that idea that security is there, here's what I think is terrible with that. We have done such a bad job with how we work and employ in this country, where you will keep a job that absolutely brings your physical and mental health down because you have health care benefits. Isn't that the weirdest dichotomy right there? It's killing me, and the only way I could get better is to stay here. It's just the weirdest thing in the world. And so it's just weird. So full-time job, it's not secure for money, it's not secure for health, it's not secure for risk. It's gone, it's done. And you don't have to go any farther than the latest Forbes article to find out the truthiest truth about that, because there's data upon data about it. So I get a little passionate about it because I want people to be healthy contributors, but that's how I feel.
Well, and for me, it was time freedom, because I worked a corporate job, I traveled a lot, I oversaw 6 states, I was gone all the time, missing my kids', activities, and I love to travel, and, my company allowed me to travel, which was fun, but I still had to go into work every day, and so for me, I can get up and decide I want to go to Florida tomorrow for a week. I can work from wherever I am, and I feel very secure. So, part of it's getting with the right company and all of that too, but you got to trust yourself and just be willing to, what do we say, go broke or something, because if, at the end of the day, if you are so stressed out, which I was in corporate America, I know it took a toll on my health for sure. So I think your health is worth everything. So, but there are some people who do great in corporate America. It's kind of what you're willing to do, I think. But some people would rather just do that and go home and have their weekends off, and that's fun. But I don't think that's most of us.
Yeah. You just finished with that. I was going to say that, if you're happy at your full-time corporate job, if you live for that job and you love it and you get excited to wake up and go there every morning and hang out with the people that are there, then by all means, keep that job. Like, we need those people that want to work for other people and want to work in corporate. So absolutely, if you're asking the question, then there's probably some seed of like, I don't know, like I don't care if it's Friday, Saturday. Like, and I have a lot of people in my life that they live for Friday. They can't wait for Friday because they have Saturday and Sunday off, and then they're back at it on Monday. And I am just like 24/7, like in my stuff, working on building my businesses and doing. And sometimes I have to piece out a little bit, like, okay, Lisa, time to just rest your brain, because I get so excited and jazzed up about everything that I'm doing. I would die in a cubicle. Like, I would die. And I've never had a job, but like a full, like I've always been the source of my success. And what I mean by that is, like, if you work in corporate, and you're really working well for that company, and not every company is like this. There's some that really reward their employees, but a lot of you are being taken advantage of and being taken for granted. And for me, when $100 goes in my pocket, I made that $100, and I get to keep that $100, or I get to reinvest that $100 into something else. So I know, like, when I'm super successful at something, it's because of the effort and energy that I put into it, and I get the full reward of that, and that's why I don't work for someone else.
We've got time for one more question, and we have one that we received online. How much time does it take to start a side hustle? So let's have one of the entrepreneurs answer that question, and it's going to take us to the hour. Anyone? How much time?
Well, I'll start with how my side hustle started, the Airbnb. I had a conversation with a flight attendant, and she was like, I've got 3 girls, and when we're in town, we need a place to stay. I'm like, let me set up that space for you. It was basically nothing. And then they would just let me know when they were coming into town. But then as I expanded it, then now it takes a lot more time. So I think a side hustle can start out small, and then as it expands and grows, then you're going to obviously be putting a lot more energy into it.
Anyone else have a comment for that? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. It can be a few hours per week, but you tend to get in what you put out, or maybe the other way around, or get out what you put in. But for me, when I was looking to go full-time, I was trying to get to 10 hours a week, and then if I could do $1,000 a month in profit, then I could basically scale up if I was able to do that full-time. So that's what made sense for me. But start with what you have and build from there is what I would say.
Okay. Any parting words, last parting shots? Just got 1 minute left.
I'll just add to that. I just think, there's a saying that it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at something. And so if you put your time into it, you've got to be patient with that it's going to take time to grow.
For everybody who likes lists, 10 hours a week. If you set aside 10 hours a week from what you're doing right now, 10 hours a week for the next 52 weeks, I absolutely guarantee you, whatever you do, you're going to be in a better spot. If you don't, you probably won't move. But if you take 10 hours a week, it's a very literal answer to the question, but put it on your calendar, because everybody can find 10 hours. Some people have been laid off. They have 80 hours a week, right? But 10 hours a week is a good thing. That's what we have in our program, and I know that other programs say that's good math discipline. So.
Well, that takes us to the top of the hour. We'd like to thank our panelists. Please give them a hand. Yay. For providing us with motivation, inspiration, perspiration, celebration, and we encourage you to continue to attend the events for Twin Cities Startup Week and continue to manifest that vision that's within you, whether it's a side hustle or not. Keep on going, because the world needs you out there. Thank you very much. Have a great afternoon. Thanks, you guys. Thank you.
There you go.
Good job, y'all.
Good stuff.